Many imagine history through the lens of humans. A wizened scholar writing tales of their youth, an architect watching as a great temple is built, or a monarch sending their armies off to battle. It makes sense to think this way. We are humans, and we look at things through the lens of what we can understand. However, history goes back far beyond our conception of civilization. The Earth was here for billions of years before, and it will be for billions of years after. It leaves messages in the rocks beneath our feet. And here, on the beaches of Kincardine, Ontario, I found a message just for you. Welcome to Waterfront Wednesday. I'm your host, William Lahowie, and today I bring you a bit further back in time than usual to tell you a bit of the natural history of not only Bruce County, but the world at large. The rocks I stand on go back millions of years, but to understand how they got there, we have to go back a bit further. 4.4 billion years, to be exact. I want you to imagine yourself standing on this ancient Earth and tell me how you feel. I personally feel very hot, and now I feel nothing.
Indeed, this early part of Earth's history was unbearably hot, with surface temperatures reaching above 2,000 degrees Celsius and volcanoes erupting everywhere. This time was known as the Hadean Eon, named after the Greek underworld. One would expect it to be far too hot for liquid water to exist, but the crushing atmospheric pressure made it possible. This is also when things get a little more interesting. In these ancient, nearly boiling oceans, crushed under thick clouds of carbon dioxide, against all odds, something appeared.
The first instance of life would have looked a lot like this. Microorganisms like the ones in that water dominated the Earth throughout much of its history, particularly when it was a water world during the Archean, which was right after the Hadean. The world stayed like this for a few billion years more, but during the Proterozoic, when oxygen filled our atmosphere, and right after, something else appeared. A lot of somethings.
The Cambrian period was about 500 million years ago and was the first period of our current geologic eon, the Phanerozoic. It was home to the Cambrian explosion, the time in our history when most complex forms of life appeared. This includes the earliest animals with a backbone, which we might call the first fish, although it is worth mentioning that fish is not a distinct evolutionary family, rather a group of related vertebrates with tetrapods cut out, which is the group of four-limbed animals that humans belong to.
The Cambrian would be followed by the Ordovician, which would see filter feeders like trilobites dominate the seas. Trilobites survived from the Cambrian all the way up to the age of the dinosaurs. This was 270 million years of survival, more than 100 times longer than any form of human existed. Many of those fossils can be found in the limestone beds just to the north of Kincardine, where the largest nuclear power plant in Canada sits. This power plant is the backbone of Kincardine's economy and employs thousands of workers. Where I stand right now was once another important part of Kincardine's economy, one of the three sites of the Kincardine salt mine. Salt was able to be mined here because Kincardine and much of Bruce and Huron County sits on top of an ancient deposit of halite, a rock that dates back to the next and most pertinent period to Kincardine, the Silurian.
Also lending its name to a race of Doctor Who creatures, the Silurian began about 413 million years ago and saw the rise of vascular plants, which carry and store water through their tissues. Another dominant group was the Eurypterids, also called sea scorpions, who were not actually scorpions, but were distantly related and had similar body plans. Some species had claws, which could tear apart prey, but even if they didn't, they were still formidable predators. Fish also still existed, but surprisingly, vertebrates were not the first to venture onto land. In fact, the earliest fossils that show animals on land are arthropods.
The arthropods dominated the waters at the time, but of course vertebrates like you and I would eventually rise to power. The Devonian would see bony-jawed fish become the kings of the ocean. The Carboniferous would see the world dominated by huge trees, and life would nearly go extinct in the Permian. The Mesozoic era afterwards, everyone already knows about, and the Cenozoic would see mammals rise to power. These times are all fascinating and important, but unfortunately the rocks near Kincardine are far too old to give us an accurate indication of what those times were like. The most important thing to remember about all of this is that I'm lying. The vertebrates would eventually grow to be massive, powerful, and affect the world in never-before-seen ways. But as we allow ourselves to tread on the corpses of dynasties past, their descendants still outnumber us 1,000 to 1. This begs the question, are we really as important as we think we are? We call ancient civilizations and wars history. But everything that came before us, all those billions of years of life and evolution, are all prehistory. Are we really right to put ourselves above all of that? I believe the answer is no. In the grand scheme of life, we have barely existed for the blink of an eye, let alone in the grand scheme of the universe. From an objective standpoint, we are insignificant. And yet, through all of this, we still find a way to laugh, to cry, and to love. The void of meaninglessness always persists, yet so does our human spirit, which can fill that void, even just a little. In all of this, I have found you, dear viewer, and you have found me. So I can say, stay the course and have a lovely day.